It's like expensive Jenga. Hello, and welcome to another video. Hi, I'm Beth, your friendly neighborhood reader and graphic designer. Early this year, I posted a video where I shared some very simple reading goals and 24 specific books I wanted to read before the end of 2024. Today, we're going to talk about where things are going and where things are headed. Speaking of how far things have come, can we talk a minute about fast fashion? Because I'm not a fan. That's why I love Elegant Tees. This brand combines the timeless elegance of modern and structured pieces with the soft and effortless feel of throwing on your favorite t-shirt. I have been a loyal customer for over 6 years now, not only because of the quality of their pieces, but because from the very start they set out to be a sustainable and ethical clothing brand that helps fight modern day slavery. They have sewing centers in India and Nepal where they hire young women who are at risk or survivors of human trafficking, and their mission is to give them a living wage and be a safe space where they can also be restored in their identity and in their values. I received a couple pieces from their West Coast edit. I personally find that I get a lot more wear out of shirts, but I still love the option of putting on a flowy dress or skirt. And this collection has some tops that you can mix and match. Also some solid and print dresses that you could hop into for date night, or you could roll up into a suitcase for your next summer vacation. I chose the Laguna printed top in black and white, and this is in size medium. This is a boat neck top, and there's a little keyhole back. It's gathered at the neck, so it drapes in a really flattering way. I love a good v-neck. I wear them all the time. And this color is just a total mood lifter. The Ridge v-neck tee in leaf green. The Ridge name comes from the soft raw edges on the sleeves. I'll probably be living in this one this summer, so get used to seeing it in my videos. Whenever I order with Elegant Tees, I feel confident about their stress-free size swaps and returns, and the best part ever, I know every purchase has an impact on a girl's life. If you want to check out other pieces in the West Coast edit and shop their ethical and sustainable clothing, just visit the link in the description box below. Alright, so let's start with our reading goals and where we're at. I'll be using the Storygraph app for the data in this video, and according to the app, I've read 68 books, 26,148 pages this year. So my first goal was to stay classy. This one didn't have any sort of number attached to it. I just realized that a lot of my favorite books have been books that have been favorites for decades and centuries. So I wanted to increase the factor that I would find more favorite books this year by reading more classics. According to Storygraph, I've read 6 classics so far this year. This is a little surprising because I've definitely been buying more classics this year. I guess I just haven't been reading them. Whatever, it's a wine cellar, not a cheese plate. This isn't bad. I think I have a few more books on my 24 TBR that are classics, so we'll get better at this. My second goal was to streak series. You remember the feeling of getting to the library, looking for the next book in a series, that joy that you felt when the next book was just sitting waiting for you right there on the shelf? That was such a good feeling, and I wanted to get that back. So far, 41 books were standalones and 27 were part of a series. I finished 2 duologies, 1 quartet, and 2 trilogies. My third goal was connected to that, and it was to conquer the realm. And dear reader, I did. I finished The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. This meant reading the last 8 books in the series, and of all of the different trilogies and the 1 quartet, I'd have to say that the Farseer trilogy and Tawny Man trilogy were probably my favorites. But I also loved the first part of Figgs and the Fool, which is the last set of 3, just because of the new character that was introduced in that book. My fourth goal was real world, to read more nonfiction. Last year, 10% of my overall reading was nonfiction, so I was just trying to bring that up a little bit percentage-wise for this year. So far, I've read 10 nonfiction books, so we're sitting at 15%, which is higher than last year at this point. Calling this one a win for now. As soon as my overall book count goes up, this percentage is going to drop because stats. My fifth goal is to do more library hauls. This one I probably am failing at. I haven't filmed any book hauls, but I've still been purchasing them. My real interest in that was to be able to show you which ones I feel pressure or hype to read quickly, and generally I try to get those from the library. I've only done one library haul so far this year, but I don't think it was the most watched video by any means. You've probably noticed when I had a book out from the library more often than you think, because that's usually when I decide to use a graphic instead of holding up a physical copy. I've made two piles so you can see how many books I've read and how many I still have to read. There are at least 2 books from this pile that I have read and since donated to my local bookstore because they were not new favorites for me. We've got 9 books left, just 9. And I'm really proud about that. Most of the books that I read were from the realm of the Elderlings, which cumulatively, if you add them all together, is way more pages than War and Peace. So why am I so afraid of War and Peace? I kind of put them in order of how excited I am to read them. I really want to read The Spear Cuts Through Water. I want to get in the conversation for that one. That might be a June read or it could be a July read. I did already touch on the realm of the Elderlings, so I'm just gonna talk about the books that are not included in that. So we have a slightly smaller stack here to work with. Mothership by Francesca Segal was 5 stars. This is a memoir about 2 twin girls who were born prematurely and they had to spend the earliest months of their lives in the NICU. They really didn't know if they were going to be okay, if they were gonna make it. So it's a bit of an edge of your seat sort of story. There's a lot of humor in it, which you wouldn't expect with the subject matter. The different ways she uses to describe the emotions that she's feeling and just the oddity of this whole situation is really refreshing, and I highly recommend you give this one a try. I Captured the Castle is one that you probably should read this summer if you haven't yet. We have this young girl who's growing up in such an interesting location, a house tucked into the ruins of this castle in the English countryside. The characters are all kind of eccentric in their own ways. Cassandra and her sister have a really close relationship, and the father is a little bit of a reclusive writer. No one really knows what he's working on. He had a smash success in the past, and they're kind of living on the meager remains of that success right now. They're having to sell off some of their things in order to make ends meet, and they're not sure how long they can hold out before they're gonna have to take some drastic measures. I wasn't sure if the ending was going to be happy or sad or gothic, and I think that's the beauty of discovering classics like this. Even though people have read them for years, I had read it for the first time and I had no spoilers, so I'm gonna leave you just the same way. Another classic I picked up for the 3rd time, I think, is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. This is on my favorite books list and it has been for some time, but I hadn't reread it as an adult, and it was a powerful experience to read it being a little bit further down the road than our main character, because when I initially read it, I feel like we were closer in age. I love what this book says about reading, about growing up, and about the neighborhood that you find and how the memories of your childhood are just so clear and integral to who you become. That sounds abstract, but there's really nothing about this story that's abstract. It's all very detailed, and you get to know Francie Nolan and the other women in her family very intimately in this book. I still love this book as much, probably even more, than I did when I initially read it. A new read for me was The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. This is my favorite book of the year so far. I feel like I've gushed about it enough, and if you like Jane Austen, if you like tales that are set in Regency era, more soft and family dynamics, relationship, friendship, growing as a person, read this book. Next, I have Neil Gaiman's Stardust. This was a first-time read for me. I have watched the film adaptation in the past, and I kind of want to rewatch it now. Even the author himself admitted that the movie is better. There are definitely some adult things about this book. There's a little bit of language in it, which is surprising for a fairy tale, but also there's just so much wry humor. I didn't find myself tabbing it or wanting to annotate it so much as just enjoying my time exploring and figuring out where in the heck Tristan was going and what he was going to find. To most fairy tales, you don't typically learn a lot about the people. You learn more about the plight and the treasure, or saving the kingdom or saving the princess, what have you, and that's kind of the vibes that this book gave me. Next is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I listened to part of it as an audiobook, which is narrated by Chanel herself, and I also just read the physical copy so that I could continue to annotate it, because her writing is beautiful, from like what happened to what happened after, the loss of her life as it was before the incident, and when this had become a legal battle, her life and her family was kind of thrown into the spotlight. It's a story of healing and resilience, and also very hard things. We are humans, and when we go through hard things, it has a lasting impact. I appreciate what it revealed about the justice system in America as well, but it's much more intimate than that. This is not ghost written by any means, and it feels super heartfelt and impactful. Last one I read only very recently, and it is Agnes Grey. A lot less gothic of a tale than most of the Bronte sisters stories, especially having read The Tenant of Wildfeld Hall last year. Quite sad that this is the last of her novels, because I really appreciate how forward-thinking she was, how her characters think, how they communicate their desires. I think that is conveyed through the character of Agnes quite well in this book. She comes from a background where her parents kind of sacrificed the well-being of their future family in order to have a love match. So Agnes herself, she wants to find someone that she feels is a good match for her and also is a good friend. She goes out in order to try to support her family because her father is starting to have some ailments that inhibit him from providing for the family, and she wants to do her part. And so she goes out for the position of a governess, and her first location is with a very selfish and angry family. The children are quite spoiled, especially the eldest boy. You just kind of feel terrible for Agnes from the very beginning of this book for the things that she has to endure. And the way that she tells her story, she even explains she could have done this, but she didn't. And just makes you love her more, because she knows in retrospect she didn't have to endure the treatment that she did, and by the end of the book she does get a just ending, and she does find herself in a life that she can love and be loved. So we figured out how far I've come with my reading goals thus far. Let's assess how those goals are serving me. Question number 1. Are there any goals that need tweaked to be doable for how this year is going? My answer is probably not. I think the one goal that I'm okay with not fulfilling is the library haul one. I actually feel like I owe you guys a proper bookshelf tour a little more than I do library hauls, but maybe that's just me, because my home library looks completely different from how it did last fall when I filmed my last book haul. Question number 2, is there a goal that you care more about now that you're halfway through? If I did not manage to read these remaining 9 books before the end of the year is out, that might be sad actually. That has been one of the most satisfying things to make progress on, and as I shared with you, a lot of those have become new favorite books, so I'm excited to discover more of those hopefully as I continue on. My last question is, are there any new goals related to YouTube? I would love to be in a better rhythm about posting a new video every week. When I started my channel last year, I fully expected to be able to post at least once a week. And I think as I've wandered away from actually scripting my videos, I've gotten less likely to actually shoot and edit. And so I'm leaning a little bit more back into at least have a bit of a framework to go by. And hopefully that leads to less time to edit and less reluctance to just make the fun stuff that I want. It feels a little vulnerable to say, but I would love to see this channel grow. And it's not just because that's a milestone for YouTube's algorithm, but also I just love the interactions with you guys. And I feel like the more people the more likely it is that at least half of them are watching every week and engaging in the comments. And I just think the more that we have community happening on here, the more fun it is. And that's really the big reasons why I started a YouTube channel, was to have a two-way conversation about books with other readers. That's just something that I'm a little bit aspirational about, but I'm also so contented with all of you who regularly watch my videos, who regularly interact with me in the comments. I appreciate all of your support for my channel and for my reading goals. If you're chasing any goals this year, I'd love to hear how it's going. If you'd like to check out Elegant Teas, please visit the link in the description box below. Hit subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that YouTube lets you know when I have another video up. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a quick thumbs up. Thanks for all of your kind support. I hope to see you in another one soon.